It's Friday afternoon this time. We're recording on a Friday right now. Um, Been a nice day. Um, so we're planning a big clean out of the garage tomorrow. It's time to get in there and just really go in with a heavy hand and really ask ourselves, like, some of the stuff in there, do we need it? Why are we holding on to it if we don't, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so this morning got up, got some stuff done, and then went out and did like some preemptive stuff that I know we could just get rid of,
Yeah.
and just started tossing stuff, and it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels
That's a
good to let go.
that is a very good project for the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. It's just everybody with kids knows this. Like when we're learning it firsthand, the stuff just starts to multiply.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it's and not only does it multiply, but it has this effect where it sprawls.
mhm.
It's not just multiplied in one space, it sprawls everywhere.
Well, and that's the thing is it's been something I've really been pressing to do because it's sprawled into the basement. So, like we've talked about over the last year and a half, like people with like the really manicured and well presented backgrounds, and
Mm-hmm.
how that's not necessarily the truth
Mm-hmm.
of of home life and whatnot. Right over there, there's a whole pile of crap we got to go through tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, good times, and you guys are dodging the storms for the most part.
I mean, we got a lot of rain where we're at, but like we
Yeah.
were in one of the places that didn't get hit too bad.
Okay.
We just got a lot of rain, some wind. We didn't get
Yeah.
any other tornadoes, and we're not in a floodplain, so we made out really, really well.
Okay, that's
So
good.
there's video floating around. I'll have to send it to you of the Vine Street Expressway that goes through Philadelphia, and how it is a swimming pool at the moment. It's at
Mm.
least 12
Wait,
feet of water.
is that the one where the guy's jumping off the
Yep.
overpass? And I saw it
Yeah. So
this
you saw that.
morning. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that that's the same one. I've seen another shot of another angle
I can
of
I
that.
can hear his mom saying, "Don't jump into that water. You don't know what's down there."
You don't like, you couldn't pay me any amount of money to jump
No,
into that water.
no.
Uh,
Who
and not
knows
just with
what's in that water? Like,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Um, you know, uh, yeah, but like, because the way that highway is organized, like, or the way it's set, is that's easily 12 feet of water right there.
Mm,
That's how deep that is.
that's crazy. Does it like go down? Like those berms on the side kind of go
Yes,
down into some?
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
there's parts of it, yeah, where you have the berms and it's lower than some of
Yeah.
the other street level
Okay.
stuff.
Crazy.
It's nuts. It's
Yeah.
nuts. So yeah,
Yeah.
fortunately we made out okay. We didn't lose power. We come to find out like yesterday that my sister had lost power the night before, and then she and my brother-in-law had gone out and bought a generator. I'm like, well, why didn't you tell us? We could have maybe come and helped or whatever. Um, so yeah, just craziness at the moment.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we weathered it okay.
Okay. Good. Good. Good.
How about you? What's going on?
Uh, Pretty chill right now. So it's good. I'm just before this, I was making a shopping list. I like to cook on the weekend, so
Hmm.
I don't do much cooking. Well, I do a lot of cooking during the week, but not my own. If that's a fair way to describe it.
Gotcha.
So one of my working from home life hacks is it is incredibly time saving and money saving to uh, subscribe to a meal kit vendor, HelloFresh or
Hmm.
Home Chef or what have you. Um, it makes it so nice because we get rushed during the week and we don't really think about I don't have time to go make a full blown meal. So if you don't, then you either just throw something together that's not so healthy, or what was happening is, oh, let's just run through a drive through and get some fast
Hmm.
food, and it makes you feel slow and sluggish, and it is incredibly expensive. So, when you look at a membership to, say, a HelloFresh, like, wow, this is really expensive. It's like, okay, well, just add that up to what you're spending on going out to get fast food, and then put on top of it just how much more efficient it is. At least for me, it made a ton of sense during the week to have that as an option. The food bills went down, actually.
Hmm.
Or, I mean, spending a ton on fast food, and it just feels better. So I do that during the week, but I really love to do like from scratch cooking. On the weekend. So I was just kind of thinking through what I want to make, and was putting together a shopping list. So,
So what's on the menu?
well, one of my friends wants me to make. He's like, here are the ingredients. You figure out how you put it together. He's like, I want you to make scrambled eggs, but I want you to incorporate homemade pesto, mozzarella pearls. And I think there may have been one other ingredient he wanted me to include. And he's like, you figure out something good to make out of it. So
So this is like your own personal version of Chopped.
yeah, and I kind of like it. I love like looking in the pantry and seeing, okay, limit myself to this and seeing if I can come up with something fun. But now a lot of my friends have started doing that, where they'll just like, okay, here's a list of ingredients. Like, what can you put together? And I'll kind of try to put something together. So that's one of the things that I'm going to try to do. Something with scrambled eggs and pesto and mozzarella pearls. So that's on the agenda. And then Hila, just right before we jumped on, sent me a TikTok of this guy making these fried sushi rice squares that you then top like whatever your sushi toppings are on top of it. So he got sushi rice, fried it. He fried it in an air fryer, a couple slices of avocado, and then some tuna or salmon on top of that.
Oh, that
So
sounds good.
I think I'm going to try to do that as
Hmm.
well. So
Oh, that sounds like fun.
yeah, and I've been on a bread kick as of late as well. So I think I may end up the most popular thing with the kids that I make is the hoagie rolls. So I'll probably be making another batch of hoagie rolls as well.
Nice. Oh, that sounds like
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. So it should be good. You have so long weekend coming up for when we're recording this. You have long weekend plans?
Yeah. So we've got, we're gonna dig into the garage tomorrow. So my mother-in-law is gonna come over and um keep an eye on the kiddo upstairs while we both get into the garage. And like
Yeah.
I wanna get stuff out. We need to clean it out. We need to reorganize it. So was
And
it
this
last week?
has been your place for quite a while, right? So
7 years, yeah.
you've probably collected a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I moved into here before we got married.
Yeah.
And then so I brought all my stuff with me. And then yeah, my wife brought her stuff when we got married. And now that we've got the kiddo, the stuff is multiplying. So one of the things she did 2 weeks ago, and she'd been prepping it for a while. There's the thing, and I don't know if it's regional or broader than that, but at least I know in this area, they call it the Just Between Friends sale. And um they have it in a couple different locations, but they have it seasonally. And what it is like you bring your baby stuff, mainly clothes, and they want like the stuff that's not been through multiple kids, but like the stuff that's gently loved.
Gently loved, lightly
Yes.
used. Gently loved is a nicer term, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. This stuff that's not threadbare. The stuff that hasn't been put through the ringer, stuff that's clean and whatnot. And it's a consignment sale, is what it is. So you organize your stuff and you consign it. But we got rid of a lot of stuff. And it's not just getting rid of it. Like we got rid of the bouncy seat, which was taking up a lot of space. We got rid of a bunch of other big things. This one thing for the yard, it's like an outdoor playpen thing that he used twice and screamed his head off both times. That's just been sitting in the garage. We were able to sell that. And then a bunch of the baby clothes. And then she bought new clothes for him for this coming fall and winter and stuff. And she made out like a bandit. So that's been a lot of work that's been going into that and organizing that and whatnot. So now it's what else is in there? What do we want to donate? What do we want to see if friends want? Or what is just stuff that has followed us from place to place to place that, maybe it's not in condition to donate. and we just get rid of.
Yeah.
So that's my long way of that's then my sister's having a barbecue on Sunday.
Mm,
And then so we're going to go to that and see my family. And then Sunday night we're going to head to the shore.
nice.
And I'm taking a couple extra days off. So I am looking forward to I've always wanted to do this. And it's funny looking back now, I don't know why I didn't do this before. Now
Mm,
granted the last couple years with JP and my wife being a teacher, but I'm thinking like years before this, I'm going to go sit on the beach the day after Labor Day when the crowds have gone. The crowds drop easily 70 to 80%, with everyone going home on Labor Day. The season is over. I've always wanted to do this. I don't know why I've never done, but I'm excited for it. Like it's kind of I'm looking forward to being on a beach. It's still gonna be warm. It's still gonna be nice. Let the kiddo run around and no crowds. You and I have
yeah.
talked a lot about going to places when people aren't there, and
My
that's my
my
plan. So
favorite, man. Off season travel is my absolute
like
favorite.
I've got plans for this September.
Yeah.
Um, so I am running a half marathon at the shore at the end of September. So I've been training for that. But the packet pickup is that that's gonna be on Sunday. Packet pickup is Friday and Saturday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up in the morning, Friday morning, and I told you I wanted to do this for a while.
Yeah.
There's a little coffee shop on the boardwalk. I'm going to go down, pick up my packet at 9 or 10 a.m. whenever they open, and then I am going to go work from the coffee shop, and I'm going to send you a picture of it.
Awesome. I can't wait. Is that
Yeah.
the same coffee shop that you sent me beans from or a different one?
Yes. Same
Same
one.
one. Okay.
Yeah. That and it's the actual place they roast it. I'll send you the picture of
Yeah.
the inside where you see all the equipment that they actually use.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
Can't wait to see
I
it.
just like it's, and this is going to get us into our topic today because we're going to continue talking about remote work.
Yeah.
Um, and we talked last week about I asked the rhetorical question: is it for everybody? And spoiler alert, the answer is no.
Yeah.
And we kind of got into why and why people prefer one thing over another. But I want to continue on the topic because I don't know, there's been something in the last year where it's taken me a while to finally get comfortable with not being online 9 to 5. I still get my stuff done, but like today, I took 2 hours and jumped into the garage to get some stuff out. So it would just make our time tomorrow together, my wife and I together, more productive stuff. I knew I could just get out of the way now. And we did some work this morning, did that for a little bit, and then back here to wrap up before the long weekend. Um, and I was thinking about it this morning. I'm like, even before I was married, and I was working remote at the time, why didn't I go down to the beach in September, take a Friday, and just go down and sit on the beach in September?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the biggest story is that, and it's so funny because when you talk to managers, it's their biggest fear that people at home are not going to be working during the day, and in fact, it's quite the opposite. We have all this flexibility and autonomy, and we sit in here on our butts all day long during. They're
Mhm.
like, we're here all day long. So it is something that we've talked about trying to get away from and making sure that we're taking advantage of this opportunity because it's a huge reason why we built the company, and it's a huge reason why we attracted people like you to the company is that we wanted to have the autonomy to be able to work when it made sense for us to work. But we've all been working so long, and whether we want to call it muscle memory or we've been brainwashed into a way of thinking, getting outside of that mold that while you work between these set hours is so incredibly difficult. It's just hard. We've
Mhm.
even doing this for so many years now, there's still times where it's like, wait a minute, why am I not taking advantage of this time? I don't need to be sitting here right now. But we do. And so it's definitely a challenge. And it's also an interesting one because we're so bought into it that there is a good cohort of people that think that anything outside of that is toxic. In fact, I really wish I would have had this tweet up in front of me, and I'll go see if I can find it. But yesterday there was a tweet that made its way into my feed talking about If your employer allows you to work remote and you work any hours outside of like 8 to 5, it's a toxic work environment. Work is between 8 and 5, and I'm like, what is this? Like, I rarely work between 8 and 5. I think that's the beauty of what I do. Like for me, I don't do much work 2 to 4 in the afternoon. I just don't. Like I take it off. I go sit on the back porch, just kind of hang out, maybe go for a walk. I get a ton of work done 7 to 8:30, 9 in the morning. And there's some days where I take the whole afternoon off and I'll call it a day. Or some days I take the whole afternoon off and maybe come and like last night I took a call from 9 to 10 last night. Um, I think that's the beauty of our setup is that we don't have to fit into this mold and we can pick and choose the hours and times and locations that we can do our best work.
Mhm.
And maybe that's a crazy thought, but that's what I'm bought into.
Yeah. And, and it's one of those things like you mentioned brainwashing. And I know that, that's an extreme term, but there is a level of that because there's this fear that, if your coworkers aren't going to get upset that you're not readily available, if you're, say, consulting like we are, your clients are. I found sometimes just telling clients what I'm doing actually kind of is a bit more freeing. If that's the word I want to use, it's much more relaxing because you fear for like, oh man, they're going to get upset. They're expecting you to be at your desk. Most of them are like, no, dude, that's awesome. Go for it. So yesterday morning, I spoke with a prospect, another business unit of a client that we're working with right now, and so I met with them, gathered some information. You and I caught up on it later, and I'm going to start putting together a proposal. But I sent them a message back last night. Um, and they're a completely different time zone than me. But, I sent them back a message just saying, different country as well. But, here's the situation. We caught up internally. I'm going to start putting a framework together to see what we could do working together. Just so you know, Monday's a holiday here and I'm taking a couple extra days off. So I'm probably not going to get back to you until the following week. Look for an update from me then. You know, what do you think their answer was?
That's amazing. That's okay. That's
Yeah, it was, yeah, cool. That's great. Enjoy your
yeah.
time off. We'll catch up with you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I
Sometimes
I
you know,
think no, go ahead, finish your thought.
I was gonna say it's almost like we put this imaginary pressure on, like, oh no, 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 I can't tell them I'm out, or I can't tell them it's gonna take me a week and a half to get a proposal back to them because like they're going to want it now.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna so we actually haven't even introduced the topic, but I want to ask you this question first. In that case, like if they came back and said, no, we absolutely need something back next week, is that someone you even want to work with if this is the kind of flexibility you want? And I mean, it's more of just a rhetorical question.
Yeah, and it's I mean it's a bigger conversation, but I think you bring up a good point because we do use those types of conversations to help inform the type of work that we want to take on. And I think it's less about the need and more about how it's positioned, right? So if a potential customer came back and said, "Hey, our budget cycle's closing, and we really want to work with you, and in order to make this happen, we have to have this submitted by Friday. Is there any way that we can be creative and work?" And that they're being transparent with the process, that's one thing. If it's
Hmm.
a we're going to demand and dictate how you do it, I think that's going to be indicative of how the relationship overall is going to work. And what I was going to say previously is that we're actually looking for companies that to work with that understand that we're not staff augmentation. We're not a call center that's staffed between certain hours, that we're solving very complex problems for them, and they're enlightened enough to know that if Jim has good work-life balance, if he's taking time off to recharge, if he's walking away from his desk to think, that's going to benefit me because I'm going to get a much better product out of it. If Jim is like sitting in a cube farm and they're trying to crank hours out of him, I know I'm going to get a crappy product. Not everybody understands that, but very smart customers and clients absolutely understand that. And
Mhm.
so, when that resonates with the company, that they understand that the balance that we're creating is beneficial for them, that's a customer we're looking for all day long.
Yeah.
And the same with
Yeah.
employers, right? Like, it's the same concept for an employer. Again, like the brainwashed manager says, I have to have gym, I have to crank as many hours as I can at a gym. That's going to make us successful. The enlightened manager says, I need to make sure Jim has things properly balanced, because it doesn't matter how much work we crank out of him, it's how much quality work that creates value we crank out of him. And the more balanced and the better he feels, the higher value that output is.
Mhm. So getting into the topic for today, um, the question I have is why is remote work such a polarizing topic?
Mm,
Right now, like last week, we got into the discussion around what works best for you. There's benefits of going into an office, there's benefits of working remotely, and then there's the benefits of having a little bit of both. It's all what works best for you to provide that quality output. But if we dig specifically into remote work, because again, what we've been seeing is a lot of companies mandating employees come back to the office, and for a multitude of reasons, many are just saying flat out no. um, why is it, or at least let me rephrase this. Why is there the appearance of such a polarizing topic here? There's people loud and yelling and screaming on both sides of it,
yeah.
and demanding absolutes. That's the other thing, demanding you are absolutely one or the other.
I think there's a perfect storm of events happening here. And on one hand, which would be the pro remote work crowd, and this tends to happen with lots of different movements, they become so fanatical in their beliefs that they become unbearable. And I can think of several people on Twitter that I followed in the early stages of remote work that I have flat out blocked and muted on Twitter, because I can't stand them anymore, because they become so what's the religious term for it?
They become a zealot.
Yeah, right. And it's a major turnoff to people that are maybe not all in, maybe don't understand it, don't want to be told what to do. And so it's unfortunate that social media tends to highlight these types of individuals. They get the most attention, and they're the most polarizing. And it's frustrating, because they're out there, and they're very polarizing. They're zealots. I like that word, and in pushing their beliefs, and it's a huge turnoff to lots of people. And so that alone, I think, is a huge contributor to the problem.
The one thing with people like that, they are they attach their identity to whatever it is. When you become a
Yes.
zealot like that, um, you attach your identity to it. So when you try to engage them, they don't want to have like a genuine conversation, a genuine intellectual debate about something. They just want to lob, phrases back and forth.
Hmm. Yeah, and they often talk down to people. And in the end, if you say, well, I don't know if this is for me, or it may not work for my organization, they often resort to personal attacks. Well, you're just an idiot, then you're stupid, because everyone's doing like. And so I think that that's a big part of it. The voices that are pro remote work, like again with a lot of movements, tend to be the ones that are most polarizing, and tend to turn off a lot of people. For them, they get what they want, which is attention, and it usually means they're hawking a book or software or something. But it's
Oh,
unfortunate.
that's a
That's
good perspective. I didn't think of that. That somebody, and I should have.
Yeah,
Everybody's got something to sell.
yeah, I for sure. I mean, that's a huge component of it. So if you take that negative energy that's getting fed into the conversation, and then you combine it with the anti-remote work crowd, which tends to be a lot of management, middle management type, business owners, people that are in charge of production and making sure that employees are getting done what they need to get done, there's a very real fear factor that if I'm not micromanaging my employees, they're not working. And that informs a lot of their conversation. So when you have these zealots that are pitching remote work, and you have these middle managers that are very used to micromanagement, and you combine them together, it's nothing but name calling back and forth, because the micromanagers are fearful and they're attacking the pro remote work crowd, because if we go remote work, then I'm going to be a loser as a manager because all I know how to do is micromanage. You have the pro remote work crowd telling the micromanager that they're an idiot. And I think it's just created this unnecessary kind of tension around the conversation, because the reality of it is, and just like politics and other hot button issues, most of us are in the middle, right? We may be one side or another, slightly off middle, but most of us are somewhere in the middle. And that's really the people that need to be having the conversation and talking about it, because that's where things are going to get done. And in the middle, it's much more nuanced. We don't have the zealots. We don't have the people that are clinging to old, outdated systems. We have people that are just trying to figure it out, and they want to cut through all that noise that is being had around the conversation to figure out, how can this really work best for us? But again, I think our platforms, unfortunately, are just built in such a way where it makes it difficult for those on the middle ground to have intellectual conversation, to really gain a deeper understanding of a topic, because it's just these people on both sides that are trying to be incendiary, get the lion's share of the voice on social media.
And it's you made me think of something when you said that. It's like, with a lot of these platforms, it's the hot take that rules. Nobody wants to have that nuanced conversation that you mentioned. Nobody wants to maybe reconsider, like, hey, there's new information now, so I'm going to slightly change my perspective on this. People want the quick hot take. They want the one liner. And let's face it, emotions drive money. Emotions drive eyeballs, emotions drive clicks, and then ultimately emotions drive money.
Yeah, and that's what these platforms were built for: ad revenue.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if they can get people upset, if they can have someone put out a little piece of content that's going to get people angry, it's going to blow up, because you're going to have the people that support it that are going to amplify it. But more so, you're going to have the people that disagree with it actually amplify it way more, because they're going to use it and spread it and talk about how horrible it is. And it just, again, it washes out any attempt at having real intellectual conversation about a topic. It can be done for sure. It's just incredibly hard. And, I think more than ever, creating environments where that can happen is going to be incredibly important. And, whether it's rethinking how we do conferences and making it more focused on conversation and community rather than rock stars on stage and swag booths, maybe that's a way it goes. Maybe there are other opportunities we have to have real deep conversation about some of these very, very complex topics that have just proven to be incredibly challenging over social media. And so that's one of the things that I'm actually hopeful for. Hopefully, in the next year, coming out of COVID, that we rethink a lot of these times that we're spending more in person with networking events and conferences and other things, and seeing if we can spin those a bit to say there's a very real need for people to actually collaborate and talk about these topics. Can we create an environment and a platform where that can be done? And I know it can happen. Whether it happens or not, who knows? But that's one of my hopes for sure.
Hmm. Because as you were talking there, because we dove into this topic and we went right to the two extremes. And I agree with you that the majority is in the middle. The majority is looking for balance. Um, while God, was it 7, 8 years now? I've been working fully from home, and then leading up to that, I was working part in the office, part at home. I'd go back and forth. And honestly, while my preference is to never go back into an office, I recognize that that's not for everyone. But then also, I was even thinking, started having kind of visions of the different types of days I have, and it kind of takes us back to where just part of our BSing at the beginning. I was talking about how, like, later this month, I'm planning a day where I'm going to be able to work from a coffee shop on the boardwalk. Part of it's to say I did it. Part of it's going to be I have to go down there anyway to pick up something. Might as well take the iPad with me and spend
Yeah.
some time to do that. But then I also think, like, there are days where, like, that's not even in the question. Like, there are maybe something urgent has to get done. Those have become rarer and rarer lately. But there's just times I just need to get my head down and get stuff done, where it's just like I need everybody to leave me alone. I like mainly, like, my wife will take my son out, where I just have the house to myself to be able to get work done for a couple of hours. And I'm rambling at the moment. But, like, I even think within remote work, there's a level of nuance where, yeah, there are days I need to be here in this office to get
Yep.
stuff done. But then there's other days where there's a level of flexibility where I'm grabbing the laptop and yeah, like, that's honestly one of the things over the last year and a half. Like, I want to find opportunities to go out and spend some time outside of the office, and find those times where maybe it's not heavy duty, like, grinded out kind of work that needs to get done, like, where I have to be focused on something, like maybe a major requirements document or something like that, or a presentation where you want the quiet to work on it, but there's still stuff to get done.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple ways to look at it. And I think in order to really make this worthwhile, you have to break the concept that your personal life is a distinct person from your professional life. It's simply untrue. You're the same person through and through. And once you break that, then that nuance becomes much more interesting, because not only is remote work and the flexibility to leave the office and take the iPad and go sit at the coffee shop and do work and important and valuable, so is not doing that. And by that, what I mean is some of my biggest breakthroughs, some of the most valuable um, thoughts and positions that I've come up with have come when I was, quote, not working. So do I not count that as work? Is that not work time? And so I think it's just as important to say, I'm just going to let go of work. I'm going to go sit at the beach and smell the salty air. um, Oftentimes it's in those moments where you're like, wait a minute, I just had a thought of how to solve this problem. How incredibly valuable is that? Oftentimes priceless. And so I think it's important to be able to break that mold so that you have all of those options. There are times where I need to be in the office. You know what? Sometimes there's times where I feel like I need to go find a co-working space because I need to, like, literally lock myself away from things. So we have those options. There are times where it's like, you know what? I kind of just want to go to a destination, maybe go to another city or a location like a beach or a coffee shop and work. And there's other times where it's like, you know what? I'm just going to take the afternoon and go wander around in the forest and sit by a river, and it's all work, right? And I know that that's hard to grasp. And again, I want to be careful having those conversations, because there is definitely a strong cohort of people that will attack that as, see, that's toxic. You want people to work 24 hours a day, and that's absolutely not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you cannot peel apart your professional self and your private self as much as you think, or as much as people say that's what you should do. When you leave work, you should leave work behind. When you come to work, you should leave personal behind. No, like, this stuff is all intertwined and you can't pull it apart. And that's where I found remote work to be so incredibly rewarding, is that you don't have to pull that apart. If there's something personal, we have the flexibility. Well, I want to go watch my kid's soccer game in the afternoon, I can go do that, right? If I'm not feeling it one morning and I want to start work at noon, I can do that. It's like, I need a recharge. I'm going to go to the beach for the afternoon. We can do that. And it's all personal. It's all work. And so I think it's important that we kind of break out of that concept. Now, the struggle is from a burnout perspective, when's too much and when are we shutting off. But if we see it like that, I don't think we're even getting anywhere close to that state. Because if we see it just as valuable that Jim's sitting in front of his computer in his home office typing, that's just as valuable as Jim sitting on the boardwalk with an ice cream cone, you're never going to burn out, right? Because you're going to be taking those opportunities to just let it go. And here's the paradox of it all that we kind of started the conversation with. That's work. That's extremely valuable. And smart employers and smart clients know that Jim on the boardwalk with an ice cream in his hand is going to result in massive value for me. It just works that way. It seems nonsensical, but it absolutely works. We've seen it for 9 straight years work.
Mhm. And I'll tell you this, like for me, like heading to the beach, part of the fun is the drive. It's getting in the car and having an hour and a half where I'll either pop a podcast on, pop music on, and it takes me back to almost being a kid with the anticipation of taking that drive down and heading down, because these are places I've been going to since I was a kid. And it kind of brings that back, and it gives me a chance to get away from screens because I'm driving. I have, I can't be touching a screen. So it gets away, it helps me clear my head. And yeah, I mean, there was a point several years ago where I was in a bad state, and I would just make that drive just to make the drive, like just to get away from everything.
Yeah, and again, I think that's the beauty that, I mean, we're kind of wrapping a lot of things around remote work, but the beauty of what remote work offers is really not the remote aspect of it, it's the autonomy aspect of it. And getting to a place where you feel comfortable to design how you want and need to work. And that's what so many people in an office suffer from, the opposite of that, in that, if those days where it's like, I just need to get out and drive, it's like, well, where's Jim? Jim's not sitting at his desk. Well, this is weird. Like, he must not be a team player. He's just out messing around. Like, that's the thought process. So if you're home and you have that autonomy, you have you have a much bigger sense of being able to do that and own that. And again, it's what makes it so incredibly valuable as an employer, as a client, as a customer. Knowing that Jim has that autonomy, I know I'm going to get the best out of Jim.
Mhm.
We're kind of
Yeah, I
repeating
like how you
similar
brought up.
themes here, but to me, that really is the nugget of the conversation.
Yeah, no, and I like how you brought up, it does come down to the autonomy, because where I wanted to start wrapping this up was as we talked about the extremes on either side. And I was trying to think of a way to phrase this question, but it's how do people become so attached to the extremes of this argument? Either it is 100% remote work and that is the only thing, or it's 100% back in the office at a set number of hours and a set time frame. And I think you answered the question before I could ask it. It's the autonomy piece.
Hmm.
I think one of the reasons why people become not the I work better in the office. I need that walk out of the house in the morning. I need to actually leave the house, go to somewhere that's dedicated to work. That's what works for me. It's beyond that. It's where everybody must be coming in. It's the you said it. It's the autonomy. Like I can't allow employees to design their day if I don't, because then I don't know what's going on.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that really is the conversation that needs to be had. And to your point, like, why are we kind of polarized one way or another? I think it's like so many things we just don't understand. We don't understand the gradient, the nuance in between. We don't have the information or the tools to help understand where we need to be. And so we cling to one of these extremes that feels more comfortable for us. And so what we really need to be doing is, if we're a manager, spending time understanding how can I be more humanistic with my team and focus on what my team is doing rather than babysitting them and trying to keep eyes on them. If I'm an employee, I need to be thinking about, how best do I work. And Is it that I need the structure of the office? And we talked about this a lot on our last episode, but is it, are there things that maybe I should be more open-minded about? I think there are a lot of people that have pushed off remote work saying it's not for me. But again, it's because they're identifying with one of the polar extremes and haven't really spent the time to say, well, maybe it is for me. I just don't have the right tools or the right frameworks for thinking about this. And maybe if I thought about it and applied, maybe it is for me. I don't know. And so, that's what I would hope people walk away from this conversation with is avoid those extreme voices. It just doesn't do any of us any good. And really take the time to think through, am I being honest with myself? Am I just aligning with pro remote or anti remote because it's comfortable for me? And would it benefit me from really spending time to understand what does it look like? Because here's the reality. The landscape of work is changing. Whether we like it or not, it is changed, and it will continue to change and evolve. And as an employee, as a business owner, as a manager, those that are going to be successful will figure out how to continually innovate and be creative within a changing landscape. So we can cling hard to say we have to be all office all the time. It's what works for me. The reality is that system is changing drastically for knowledge workers. So even if you are in that camp and you think you have strong arguments for it, it would benefit you just to spend some time to be honest with yourself and saying, maybe I'm just choosing that because it's the comfortable choice. Maybe I need to be uncomfortable because it's going to suit my business, my career, my employees better to be a bit more open-minded about what the future looks like.
One last question, because I don't want to
Okay.
take away from that, because you really summed it up really well. But just one additional thing for like, what would be your advice to those that are turned off by the loud voices in this argument? Like, I'm trying to think of like a good example of it, but like when you have something as divisive as this topic and you have the loudest voices are one way or no way, and you have those that are looking for like genuine information on it, and
Yeah,
those extreme voices can turn them off. So then they don't want to seek any information. So they fall into the same old habits.
that's
What
right.
would you say to those people that are looking for a genuine conversation around which way would suit them best?
Literally shut off those voices. Mute filters, blocking, absolutely. It's the same advice that I have for family members. Turn off CNN, turn off Fox News, don't listen to Sean Hannity. Don't, like, on one hand, you're either going to get the news that you want to hear that reinforces your existing beliefs, or you're going to hear something that angers you, which is going to reinforce your existing beliefs, and you're just going to dig deeper. Like, shut all that off. Like, those are on the extremes. The same as with this argument. Like, if you're finding people, and you will, on both sides of this argument, there are extremes, block them out. Like, start to clean up your feeds. I guarantee you there are really good conversations happening out there around this topic. And there are very insightful, balanced conversations happening where people truly want to be open to understanding, how can I learn more so I can be a better leader, so I can be a better employee, so I can position my business for the future with remote work as a key aspect of that. Those conversations are there, but if you have all these voices yelling and blaring, it's going to be drowned out. You have to find ways literally to shut those voices off. And for me, that was the mute filter, the block button. Absolutely. I felt bad about it in the beginning, but I no longer feel bad. Like, this is my time. This is my attention. This is my energy. I should be able to help control what I get. And I want knowledge. I don't want to be screamed at by these zealots on either side. It does me no good.
Mhm. And yeah, like I said earlier, no matter what the topic is, when you have people that are that like, um, God, what's the word I'm looking for? It's another kind of religious word. And not dedicated, but it's long dedicated. Like that people that are that dedicated to the cause,
Hmm.
they don't want to have an intellectual
No.
debate. Their side is always right. The other side is always wrong. There's no in between.
Yep, they want to make it emotional so that they either demonize the person they're talking with, or they further entrench the people that are on their side.
Yeah.
That's all they're trying to do. They're not trying to educate. They're not trying to make people smarter. They're not trying to get people to think. That's not their MO.
Mhm. Cool. Well, this was fun. It went off a little differently than I
Yeah, I mean,
thought,
we
but
went down a little. We mentioned politics, and that's always scary. But you
yeah.
know, if there's a similar vein there.
Oh, it's a total thing there. Like, and that's my whole thing with politics is just I don't listen to either extreme sides of the argument. I want to talk to the people in the middle that want to have a genuine intellectual
Yeah.
conversation, not the people that want to cheerlead for their team and demonize the other.
And I think just one last thing to know, it's important that you make that decision because not only do they are they not there to educate you, they are there to sell something. They're not doing it to like create division. They're not
Mhm.
doing it to demonize people. Their number one motive for being on one of these extremes is to sell something.
Yeah.
Either their personal brand, a book, appearance fees. They are selling something for themselves. Just
Mhm.
remember that.
And that's the one thing coming into this conversation I had thought of with people on either side of this argument is them selling something. But I'm kind of kicking myself because it's like, yeah, everybody's got something to sell because you're right.
Yeah.
It's with the emotions they're trying to get you hyped up about something, bought into something so they can,
Yep.
sell you something.
I have ads to sell. I have books to sell. There's
Yeah.
endless things they can sell you with your
I got
attention.
courses to sell.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, this is really fun. This
Yeah.
is really fun.
It was a good conversation.
Cool.
All
Well,
right.
thank you much, and we'll catch everybody later.
See ya.